Hey guys, it's Misty Eyez, and I'm here with,
Christian Gemignani.
this is a Misty Meets. I want to introduce you to this guy, Christian is what? Amazeballs. What would you say you are to me? Because I know the children are going to ask, and what are you to me? Or what am I to you, I guess is a better question.
You are a friend and a mother figure, a mentor, an example, a sister in God. There's so many things to me. I wouldn't mind you being referred to as my friend or my mama.
Mama. Christian calls me Mama. But I didn't want to be like, hi everyone, this is my son. I wanted it to come from you. This is a Misty Meets with Christian, and I just wanted to introduce people to the world. Christian recently moved here from New Jersey.
Sure did.
And how long ago was that?
That was last April.
Oh my goodness, it's been one whole year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's been amazing.
So I met Christian. I help with one of the transgender support groups here in South Florida called Safe Tea. It is every Wednesday night at Sunserve at 6:30. And that's where I met Christian. I think the week you moved here, right? You're like, I just got here, and you were struggling with your job transfer and just a lot of things, right? You were brand new, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I kind of adopted Chris under my wing. And if you're a loyal follower on my YouTube channel, you know that I'm definitely Mama Misty to a lot of people. My husband and I have truly adopted him into our family. I mean, I'm Mama and he's Papa John. And
True.
We have fully adopted Christian every sense of the word except for legally. I'm not his legal guardian. He's older than 18, so he wouldn't even need that. But my goals for Christian is to build him as a leader and a pillar in our community. I see something in Chris. Now, I mentioned the fact that Christian is transgender. What does that mean, Chris?
That means that I was born.
I was born too, by the way. Just,
common.
I think that's a human
One of the
thing.
many things we share.
Yeah. we also both breathe oxygen. It's kind of a thing. No. Okay, so you were born.
I was born in a female body.
Yes.
And just like how Misty says in her trainings, the doctor smacked my ass and said,
Wow!
it's a girl.
Yeah.
But, growing up, that's not what my reality was. That's not what my future was.
When did you first know you were not a girl?
I was very young. I would say about 4 to 5, as far back as my memory takes me.
Right. A lot of trans people say that they're early, because in order to transition the safe and there's guidelines called the WPATH, World Professional Association for Transgender Health. So there's a set of guidelines or quote unquote best practice rules. And one of those guidelines is you need to see a therapist before you can get your hormone replacement therapy. And a lot of times when my clients are going to therapy, they tell me stories. And the most common I hear is, oh my gosh, today I talked to my therapist about my earliest memories and I remember being in kindergarten. So I think that's very common. 4 or 5 is a very common age. Do you have a specific memory or is it just that age in your mind?
I remember moments like going to church as a family.
Mm-hmm.
My brother would dress up and my dad would dress up, and then I would watch the way that they were styled.
Sure.
In corduroy pants, the slacks and button downs, the nice shiny black shoes, and a tie or a bow tie or something that I really wanted to wear a bow tie because I thought it was really cool. And it just resonated with me as a kid. I thought that I would love to wear that type of stuff, and when I would ask about it, and I would try to subtly change the clothes that my mom would lay out for me for church, I would try to dress more like my dad would or like my brother, and I just noticed I was drawn to that.
So your earlier memories of being trans is just desire, no trauma.
I would say it was an innocent.
Because sometimes people, like, especially female to male, the trauma would be my mom made me wear a dress and that made me cry and I would fight and I'm like, no, 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 no. Another trauma that trans children take into adulthood is when the teachers at school say, boys line up, girls line up, everybody, boys on this side, girls on this, Misty, you're on the wrong side. And then that, a lot of trans people carry that specific memory into adulthood. Do you have any negative I don't want to bring up negative, but do you have any negative? Like, ugh.
The one thing that stands out in my mind that I know was like a pivotal moment regarding me being trans was when I was in, I think it was either first or second grade. I went out to recreation with all of my schoolmates, classmates, and this girl that I knew, her name was Taylor. I really liked Taylor. She was one of my good friends. Look at me cheesing. But she was really pretty in my eyes. I thought she had a bomb personality. And I wanted her to give me a kiss. So I was doing some reverse psychology and I went up to her and I was like, I bet you can't give me a kiss. I bet you can't kiss me. And then she rose to the challenge, and of course she chased me, and I let her chase me and catch me to give me a kiss. And I took that. I really cheesy in like a little kid innocent way, but I took that thing that happened, and I went to my mom when we were in the car later on that day, and I told her about it, and she said very seriously and solemnly to never do such things. And why would I want her to kiss me?
She was trying to protect you from their mother's wrath, probably.
Whatever the reason is, or whatever feeling that she had, it the way that she told me to never bring that type of stuff up again, or to never kiss a girl again, or just the fact that like talking to her at first, I was really excited to share the secret with her. The moment that I had with her, it almost was like a rite of passage, as a little boy would, like their first kiss with a girl. You know, that's the level of excitement that I had. But when I wasn't met with the same level of excitement and happiness that I felt from my mom, I realized that I couldn't share things like that with her. It wasn't a safe place to share.
How was your mom later in life? Is it okay if we go personal?
Yeah.
How was your mom later in life when you started to realize you were a man and started transitioning? I've been on my channel, I've been very, very honest and open about my journey and my relationship with my parents and my family. How was your relationship with mom? And when you started to tell her, did you okay, I'm not going to guide you, but did you come out as a lesbian first and then a guy? Were you confused in that, or were you always, I'm a man?
I knew inside that I would have loved to have been born a man.
Sure.
I knew inside that I had these feelings that were not of the same feelings of my peers, or mainstream.
Yeah, what the F is normal,
or what it's out there and obvious. But I knew this about myself. I just thought it was impossible to attain. So I went for what I would say is the next best thing. I knew I was attracted to women, so I decided to explore that when I went to college, and there was an environment. It was almost like a safe haven. Georgian Court University is where I went to college.
Was it an all-women school?
When I went there for my freshman and sophomore year, it was an all-girls school. So I had a lot of pickings, a lot of eye candy.
Plenty of fish in that sea.
Yep. And I met this woman, and we blossomed into a relationship. I kept it on the DL for a couple months, and then it was Thanksgiving Eve, the day when my family decides to cook every single thing on the menu for Thanksgiving, like every other family does. And mom's cutting something, she's fiddling with the pot, and I decided that was the moment when I was gonna go tell her that I was not just into guys, but I was into girls, to try to soften the blow and see what her reaction would be. I was testing the waters. So I sat down at the kitchen table, and she's standing up stirring a pot or cutting something, and I decided to kind of just go right into it. I dive in. I didn't tippy toe or step on eggshells. I went right for the kill, and I told her I like girls just as much as I like boys.
So you came out as bisexual.
Yeah.
I did that too. I was bisexual for 4 years. It was while I was at Oral Roberts University, not an all-boys school, but an all-severe, devout, evangelical Christian school. And I'd be like, I think I'm bisexual. And a lot of my friends would be like, girl, we know. So it's the path to self-discovery can take us many, many places. And I've never said this on my channel, but I describe my journey as like a circle peg. And that's where I am today. I'm a circle. And I knew that I was a girl at a very, 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 very young age. But I didn't know it was possible. I didn't know it was a thing. And I thought my thoughts and fears were broken and wrong. And I thought I was traumatized and just broken. And then about 9 years old, I knew I liked boys. And about 13, people at school started calling me homo and gay bee and queer boy and things like that. And so I just started to accept the fact that I was gay. So my square peg inside the round hole, there was a lot of gaps, but it touched in 4 places, so it fit. It wasn't snug. I mean, if you tapped it, it would probably fall out. And then in college, right after college, I went to my first ever drag show, and the lights and the bells and the whistles, like ding, 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 woo, 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 like holy fuck, I was captivated. And I was like, that's me. That is me. Oh my God, that's me. And I remember the first queen I ever saw was Katia Lee Love. Oh, and then she actually washed her makeup and came out to meet me because I was just captivated. And the guy that was my best friend was also her friend, or knew her. And she came out, and she was a bald man. But I couldn't believe how stunning and beautiful. She looked like she was 23, and she was 43. And I was like,
wow.
I was like, oh my God, that's me. And then I could be a diva by night. I can be, oh my gosh, mind blown. And then when I moved to Florida in 2000, I moved to Florida in 2000, I started doing drag myself, and I bumped into Erica Norell at one of the clubs, a very good friend of mine here in South Florida. And I was like, and that's when the bells and the whistles were like, bing, 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 bing. Wait a minute. That's me. And I saw the breast implants and living as a woman all the time. I knew when I saw that was possible to be a woman, I was like, that's me. So I slowly started transitioning. And finally, I can tell you now today, I'm no longer a gay man. I am a straight woman, circle in a circle. So, did you have that square peg experience in your life, maybe? Where my story is going?
I felt like that. I'm glad that you explained it because it helped me understand where to place my round peg and square hole, in my life. So I guess thinking back to my childhood, I used to go and play softball for all these different teams.
Sure.
I was an athlete all the way. And softball was one of my favorite things to participate in because I guess I got to show off in a way because of my skill level and what I was capable of and my strength and just different attributes that I just love to tap into. But I recognized that, yeah, there was a whole bunch of things about it that was masculine, and I just loved the game. I enjoyed
competition,
it. Yeah.
all that.
The challenge of learning a new skill and applying it under pressure, being amongst a team of different personalities that are unique and similar and challenging at all the same time, dealing with a coach that might be understanding of proper coaching techniques versus one that has zero experience or care to learn how to gain a better understanding of how to coach people. But despite all of those different things that I loved about it, I recognized while on the teams that I was amongst a group of women, a group of girls.
So you kind of felt like an outsider?
Yeah, I felt like an outsider all the time. As much as they included me, as inclusive as it was, as much of a family as it was, I still felt like I was playing on the wrong team.
Yeah.
I really felt like and not the wrong team. I mean, I loved those girls like they were my siblings. Breakers, shout out. We were a fucking awesome team. A lot of laughs, a lot of memories, and connections that I'll never forget, memories that I'll never ever forget.
How long after college did you start transition, or when did you start?
I started transitioning, I would say like an official transitioning start was spring of 2012. It was a week before we went into spring semester. I was in Philadelphia with my girlfriend at the time. We were visiting her friend. We were trying to just hang out because we were just coming off of a long hiatus of between school, being off of school, not being able to see each other for a minute. So we're hanging out and we're at her friend's house and we're laying down, cuddling, talking, and she asks me this question, seemingly out of the blue, about, have you ever considered transitioning into a man? And it took me a second. It took me back because
Do you ever think
we never talked about stuff like that. It was like about we were coming up on a year. We were coming up on not a year, but we were a good couple months in, and we never discussed such things. And then when she hit me with that question, it was like, I was like, holy shit,
where'd that come from?
Yeah, where did you see?
Bitch, you don't know me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So she asked me that, and I decided to tell her the truth and say that actually I think about that every day. That's something that goes on in my head, like an internal battle every single day. I wish that would be my reality.
Like you, I identified as a gay man. I mean, you were a lesbian, but
Yeah.
I was a gay man. And now, after for years and years and years fighting for gay rights and the gay pride movement and putting gay pride stickers on my car and stuff, now it's kind of a mind fuck for me to be a straight woman. How is that for you? Because you fight so hard for gay rights because society does not treat you as equals. Yes, transgender is a whole nother story. But now I'm married to a straight man and I no longer identify as a gay person. So how is that for you? Is that kind of like or you're like, I've always been straight?
No, it's I guess it's yes and no, because I've always known that I'm attracted to femininity, and at first I always was just strictly looking into women, even when it was almost like a forbidden fruit for me, and I felt as though I couldn't chase after what I wanted and desired because I wasn't out yet. I didn't even, I wasn't even out to myself. I didn't even have the vocabulary or the language to express who I was to myself. I knew I was attracted to women, for sure. So I guess technically in public eye you could say I was a lesbian, but inside I knew I knew that I just had the feeling that I was a man. I just didn't have the language to
Right.
put to my feelings. I couldn't articulate how I felt. I never was exposed to it before. I didn't know that it even was possible to transition.
God
from
bless
one
your
gender to
ex-girlfriend. I
Yeah.
wonder if she was experienced on that or educated, or if she was just guessing.
I don't know. I know that she's had experience with masculine presenting females that are like butch.
Yeah, like baby dykes.
Yeah.
When I was trying to date gay men, there was a couple of gay men that I dated, like maybe 3, and they were like, if I wanted a woman, I would date a woman. And I'm like, I was so mind blown by this, because I'm like, what do you mean? And they're like, you're a woman. And I was like, no, I'm not. Yes, I am. I've always been a woman, but I was trying my hardest to present masculine, but they saw the woman inside me and in my heart and in my soul and in my everything. And I think a couple of my ex-boyfriends helped me transition to come to terms with it. But by then I was so ingrained through mental, physical, religious abuse to myself as well. I was like, I'm never coming out. Like my journey was very difficult and very hard to come out. But the opposite also, I remember a couple straight guys were like, I know you're a girl. And they were attracted to me before I even transitioned. And I was like, what? It was just really weird. Like, your eyes are open to things before you're ready to them.
Yeah.
It was kind of awesome. This is very off the cuff, by the way. We didn't plan anything. I just said I'm going to get to know you. So what we didn't prepare anything. So what question should I ask you next?
I guess the best question to ask me would be, how did I get through the dark times?
Yes.
How did I transition from such a state of instability, insecurity, low self-esteem, all that wrapped together, and how did I make that transition over the bridge to a place of positivity, and all the good things that come with that?
That's very good, because I think all trans people, that's part of the transition. And the first step isn't anything. Like, if you're an alcoholic, the first step is acceptance. And a lot of people go to that deep, dark place. They reach bottom, just like an alcoholic. You reach bottom before you can say, I'm an alcoholic and I need help. So yeah, it's a good question, Christian. How did you come out of that darkness?
So I was, when I like I told you, I admitted it to myself in the same time I was admitting it to my girlfriend.
Sure.
When she asked me if I ever considered transitioning. The very next week, I got my hair cut, and my mom was saying, "Oh, are you gonna be transitioning into a man now to make you being with a woman normal?"
Oh.
So I would be,
that's below the belt.
Heterosexual presenting.
Right.
And so that was the beginning, even further down the line, because I started having a rocky relationship with my family when I first came out.
Yeah.
That was in Thanksgiving. So, things escalated over time, and I was caught in a very bad mindset, in thoughts that were counterproductive, that would work against me. And I started to do a lot of self-reflection on what I truly wanted out of life, because I knew that I didn't make it that far just to be miserable and all the type of feelings that go along with that. I didn't want to have that type of life.
Mm-hmm.
And I decided I was going to start thinking about the things that I did want out of life. I wanted to, for example, a couple things are I wanted to transition, I wanted to pass, I wanted to be stealth, I wanted, when I was in the company of other men, I wanted to be recognized and seen and respected as another man. I don't want to be seen as a knockoff wannabe poser. I don't want to be seen as somebody that is being too overly masculine, that's trying too hard to fit in. I just wanted to be myself. I just wanted to be Chris.
I'm not interrupting. I'm taking a brief pause. Keep telling us how you came out of your darkness.
Yeah.
But I think that's very important to pause and talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, when a lot of trans guys emulate them and they looked up to in their childhood, they start to become that, I can't think of the word I'm looking for, aggressive, mean, wife beater mentality.
Because they think that's what being men is.
And there's a definite, I mean, yes, as children, put the doll down, don't cry, stop being a sissy, the boys don't cry, be a man. There's definitely that ingrained in boys when they're younger, but there's also, you can be a strong man and a loving, tender, compassionate man too. And a lot of trans guys go so dark in their transition, just masculine presenting. And I think that's just a brief note that I'm glad you're not that type of guy at all. Like, I've noticed that, and I've told you that personally. Like, I'm really impressed that you have never embraced the dark side of your masculinity.
Well, maybe not some. Yeah, it's definitely dark. It could definitely get dark if someone decides to follow that type of role model.
Yeah.
And I believe that that's just an immature person that they're looking up to, and they might just be ignorant. What I mean by ignorant is that they just don't know any better.
Right. They might be following society's role models of maybe
movies, what we see in the media.
But there's also, if you have positive male role models in your life, you can definitely not be that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, so I didn't mean to distract you. Go back to how you came out of your own personal depression and darkness.
So I started to imagine the type of man that I wanted to become.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to be strong. I wanted to be I wanted to have an inner strength. I wanted to be like a mountain, unmovable, immovable when things were blown my way or their storms came. I would be able to be a fortress inside my mind, inside my emotions. And then there's physically too. I'm constantly working on that, and I decided on a plan of action of how I'm gonna get there. I decided I was gonna start. I had these big goals, and I'm gonna take these big goals and break them up into mini stops in the road and make it into like a milestone. And as I started to hit each goal that I set out for myself, it was really amazing. I felt so good inside that I was able to do this, and I was starting to manifest the very things that I initially fantasized about and imagined about on a daily basis. And I put this really good energy behind it because the more I thought about it, it was like a seed. It grew, and I continued to nourish it with good feeling energy and thoughts behind it, and it made me excited. So those thoughts started to pick up momentum of good feelings, and it was so much easier for me to go out of my comfort zone. I started being more inspired, and I felt more confident, and day to day my self-esteem started to raise up, and I all these goals I'm hitting and the success I was getting, it was, I don't know, it was just creating Christian.
Awesome.
And I saw that in the mirror. I saw that with the people I was attracting into my life, the circumstances, the respect I was gaining, my authentic self. I was able to look myself in the mirror, and I started to actually smile and be happy with what I saw.
When were you allowed to smile at yourself, is my question. Is it once you got short hair?
Yeah.
Is it once you grew facial hair? Is it once you wore boy clothing? Like, were you able to smile every step of the way, and then each step of the way looks bigger smiled, or like when did you first feel comfortable?
My experience, the second I cut my hair, I was ecstatic. I was so happy. It was completely ugly. The first time I cut my hair, the hairdresser didn't know what she was doing because she thought I lost my mind. I had long
Britney Spears it, bitch.
Yeah, I had very long, curly, beautiful hair, and it was the very first time that I ever was cutting my hair. And I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking out loud, like, all these thoughts. And she's listening to me, and she's like, what the fuck is going on with this person? Like, you're so, like, you know, everybody has always told me, like, you're a beautiful young woman, and you have beautiful features and hair. Why are you cutting your hair? Why are you transitioning into a man? You should stay a woman. And I guess she had, like, the same kind of, like, feelings about it. So when I was cutting my hair, she was having doubts, and she gave me a really messed up haircut. But in my mind, I didn't give a shit. As long as my hair was short, I was ecstatic. That next morning when I woke up, I was laying on my pillow and it felt different. I remember that I didn't have the annoyance of a ponytail and the ponytail holder being in my head while I'm laying on the pillow. And I just started, like, kicking my bed. I was like, oh my God, yes! I was so excited that I could wake up, and I now looked more like how I felt inside.
That's so awesome.
That was like the beginning of me aligning my image with my image in my head. So it was really, that was the first step, and I felt great.
And I felt great.
But I did feel dysphoric whenever I would see my chest. And I didn't really know how to navigate dressing, so I did a whole bunch of research. I wanted to pass. That was one of my goals. I wanted to be like, you can't tell. Like, that's what I was going for. I didn't want there to be any...
We call that stealth.
Yeah.
When nobody can tell that you were born the opposite gender, we call it going stealth. It's undetectable, unclockable.
I wanted to be as if I was born that way.
Yeah.
I wanted that. That's how I wanted to be received by other people.
How long after you started transitioning were you able to get your top surgery?
It took... All right, so I started transitioning 2012. 5 years to get my top surgery.
How was that for you?
It was quite a journey. Ups and downs, lots of them, like a roller coaster. And I realized I had to, if I wanted to get to the next step, I really had to be focused on the visualization of the
Endgame.
The body that I wanted, the type of, you know, masculinity and the swag that goes with that, like the style. Like, I had to think about all these different things that made me feel good and inspired me. I had to think about that when I was in my moments of dysphoria. And because it took me 5 years to get my top surgery, there would be moments where people would want to go to the water park, or they'd want to go to the beach, go swimming at a friend's barbecue. You know, there are all these different scenarios that were coming up along the years, and I had to calm my mind down because I'd go into a state of what ifs and scenarios, and me feeling like cringy inside, uncomfortable, not wanting to be seen. I really wanted to just shrink into the shadows and kind of like go loathe in the corner, because that's how I felt. It was very emotional for me to have to go outside of my comfort zone that far. When I kept on looking at other people, comparing myself to men that were able to just rip their shirt off and they were completely comfortable and just able to go about a water slide as if it was nothing. And in my experience, the same thing going on a water slide with out my top surgery, it was almost traumatic for me. It was a lot of anxiety, and I just felt like everybody could see the see a woman instead of a man. And
Yeah.
I wasn't going to be able to get and maintain the self-respect and outside respect that was on my goal. And I just had to continuously, I guess,
Focus?
yeah, I just had to keep reframing my mind. It's all about perspective. That's the only way. That's the short answer right there. For everything that I've gained, every bit of success that I have from this transition and in life in general was by me taking
The
a
bull by the
triggering
horns.
moment or a circumstance and changing it in my mind to be an advantage for me, to be a lesson learned, to be a challenge to rise to and a rise above, or an obstacle to navigate. And when I was able to turn it into a game like that and play the game and realize this moment right here is taking me out of my comfort zone, but by me coming out alive and on top from this moment, I'm going to be stronger inside, and I'll be able to then, once I overcome this, I'll be able to then help somebody that's going through the same thing or similar thing later on. Once this has no power over me, I can then help somebody else that is struggling with this.
Speaking of short answers, this quick little interview is not quick at all.
No.
But one more question has popped into my mind. I'd like to ask if we could do this quickly.
Yeah.
Do you have any regrets?
No.
Nothing?
Not
Transitioning
one thing.
for me is the hardest thing I have ever done in my whole life. But I too have zero regrets. I've lost family members. I've lost friends. This has been the most expensive, painful, challenging thing for me to do as a human being. But I have zero regrets. Would you say that everything you've done so far has been worth it?
I'd say with 100% conviction that I have zero regrets.
Good.
And in order for me to be who I am, where I am today, surrounded by this incredible circle of people that show support and love and unconditionally, in order for me to be around this, I would have to be who I am today. And I wouldn't be who I am today if it wasn't for all that I've been through.
Truth.
So I wouldn't change a damn thing.
Right.
I would go through it all without a second thought.
My only regret, if I were to have a regret from my personal life, my only regret would be I didn't force my transition on my mother at a very young age. I told my mother when I was very young, and she did not accept it. Of course, back then there was no Jazz Jenny and no Caitlyn Jenner. There was no, like, what are you talking about? You're a boy, you have a penis, that's it. And my only regret, if I did have one, would be if I had a time machine, I would go back to 10 years old and force my mother to accept my transition. Go on testosterone blockers, go on estrogen. I would force it at 10 years old. I think Christian's really good in the camera, so I might, while you're here, keep you for a couple other videos, but this one should be officially over. Any last tips of advice for anybody?
What I would say as a parting message to anybody who's watching is that try to find what it is about your life that's not working for you and rethink of it in a way, rephrase it almost, reframe that thing that's not working for you and script it, put a narrative behind it that fits you. Start talking about it in a way that you want to manifest into your life. Start writing it down in a journal. And if you don't know what you want, start reflecting on your day. And when there's things that happen that truly spark your interest, that really make you excited, that gives you pure joy, that makes you happy. Write it down. And that's how you're gonna find out what your destiny is, what your next step is to be. And that's just a simple thing that I did in my experience, and it worked, and it's how I've essentially gotten to where I am today. So if you guys are in a spot and you feel like you just don't know what to do, that's maybe something that you can do in your own life and see where it gets you.
Awesome. Thank you, Christian, for stopping by for a little Misty Meets.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And this is Misty Eyez and
Christian.
And loving you, Zizi. Thank you.